Welcome back to another episode of NFL News on the Boom Bust channel. I'm your host, Terry. And today we are doing the quarter two check-in for the NFL 2025 NFL season. It's an odd number of games. So technically week 9 could have been, but I wait till week 10 because I like to get to a point where most teams have played 10 games. Every year I feel like that gives you the best view. Yeah, even though we'll do quarter 3 and 4, I really feel like once we get the 10 game mark, that's when you have a good vision of the NFL. At least these last few years that I've been doing it, it's been working pretty well. And so we're at that point, and I think more so than any other year, like I really have a good grasp on what these teams are. And it's just been an odd year, man. I think partially injuries, as it always is, even though, and this was a year, because I don't know if people remember, but a few years ago, and I don't have a list on me, but we had a crazy list of like big name injuries in training camp, losing people for the year, losing significant time. And this year was relatively quiet, and everybody's like, man, okay, yeah, we're good. And then a bunch of injuries happened in the first few weeks. And so injuries are always going to happen. And that's why, like, beyond all the other reason, it's silly to make bold claims week 1 and week 2. The injuries is probably the number one reason you don't want to, do stuff like that. So a lot of injuries. I think Burrow being the biggest amongst them that really set the Bengals back, but still number of injuries, and it's a mix of that. It's a mix of teams are not, and I don't really have the numbers to like lay this out, but teams are just not on they're not on the same page universally across the league, I think, as they are typically by this time. And we saw a really slow start to the NFL, a lot of sloppy football. Everybody says the first 2 weeks is preseason, but I think it was worse this year, and we saw that extend throughout. And I didn't, look at the numbers yet, but I feel like if I look at the numbers to this point, defense might not be where it is or where it was last year. So just a lot of stuff going on this year. A lot of teams emerging, a lot of teams really falling off due to different circumstances. So anyway, the check-ins are all about the contenders, talking about who the actual contenders are. And I do some other things, but really we're just going to focus on this because it's a lot to get through. And I didn't go one by one to lay it all out. I'm going to just do it this way. It's easier for me. So we'll go like that. Typically, I just talk about the contenders. And contenders for me are always like, usually, I don't know, 2 to 5, maybe 2 to 4. And so this year, what makes it so interesting, I'm doing all the I guess best possibility playoff teams right now, but still I would say more so than usual, I would not have as many teams in the top tier in a normal year if I was just doing, because I'm pretty select about who I'm like, okay, who is built to win multiple playoff games and make it to the championship. Like, that's not a long list these last 3 or 4 years, but this year, man, it's quite a toss-up because honestly, you got the salary cap catching up to a lot of people. You got attrition with coaches catching up to people. Injuries are always going to be there, and you got just a good connection of new people in new places that it's an interesting year. So anyway, we're going to get into it. Let's start from the top. Or maybe we should start from the bottom. Okay, so not likely. Look, the Broncos got a lot of wins. Well, let me back up. Let me back up before I jump into it. So when I think about a contender, there's hundreds of things you could talk about, but for me, I really try to break it down to offensively. Do you have an offense that can control the game? Now, I have a formula and a stat that I've been playing with this year to measure that, and that's not how many points you score and all that, but when I think about it, it's like, do you have a team that can get first downs? Do you have a team that can have, or a unit that can get first downs, or that does get first downs, I should say? Not just one, but like, how often are you getting first downs? Do you have a team that has an effective running game? Do you have a team that has a good time possession? You could control the clock. Do you have a team that isn't turning the ball over a lot? Those types of things, because the game comes down to possessions, the game of football, but really in the NFL, in playoff football, that is super important. So it's not necessarily who has the most potent offense. It's who has an offense that has an ability to control the game flow, because possessions, you only got a certain amount of them in a game, and so those possessions really matter. Are you constantly 3 and out? Are you punting a lot? Stuff like that. Defensively, numbers, production is good. Really, the only production number I really care about the most are sacks. But other than that, I try to look at, are you stopping people on third down? And do you have either somebody that's a complete game wrecker, or do you have just a bunch of talent on the roster that makes me think that, okay, this defense, once you lock in on a game plan, playoff style, you'll be able to execute. So I look at kind of a combination of those things. Then, bonus points for experience, big bonus points for experience, being battle tested and what you overcame in terms of a roster. And then big bonus points for coaches that can give you a schematic advantage. So there's that. All right, so starting with the Broncos. They're in the not likely category. They have a lot of wins. Probably might win in the AFC West, maybe. Probably might be. I don't know. We'll see. Because their games have been tight, and yes, they pull it out and win. And a lot of people say a win is a win. This is why I always say I don't agree with that. Because, yes, in terms of the playoff mechanics, yeah, a win is a win. It counts it really doesn't if you get to tiebreakers, but it gets you into the thing. But when we're talking about execution and ability to go through the playoffs, their offensive stats, if you look at it any type of way, are horrible. They're bottom of the league in almost every metric you can think of, especially when you think of in terms of controlling the game flow. That's not an offense that you believe is going to be able to steal possessions, cash in, turnovers or anything of that nature. So then you're relying on your defense, which has been playing great, near the top of the league, and sacks especially. So they got, edge rushers that are explosive up the field and everything. But the issue with that is that works in a close game. That works in a game where you're leading, especially by a lot. But when it's you're behind, knock them out, possession game, that gets neutralized a little bit, and that's what they do best, especially in Pat Surtain might be arguably their biggest game changer and able to take out a receiver. But again, if you're down 14 in the playoffs, those things don't matter as much when a team is trying to control the clock. And so that's just not likely for me. The Bears, they'll have the same thing that a lot of these teams have, but, first-year head coach we are very young in terms of continuity, and we're still young in terms of being battle tested, not only this season but in the playoffs. We don't have a ton of guys who've made deep playoff runs, so I just don't really see that for us. And I know the Bears pretty well. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on them, but I would say that's the first thing that comes to mind. So the next tier, there's a chance. Look, the Bucks, everybody knows about and honestly, the offense of numbers are probably not as good as some people think, but people know about the offense. There is, no pun intended, there's a chance that you get into the playoffs and you have Emeka, Godwin, and Evans healthy for the first time to fully play together. And so that idea is scary, especially with what Baker's been able to do. The offensive line being pretty good, and Rachaad White being as effective as he is as the number 2, because Bucky Irvin is their preferred guy. And so even him coming back. So there's a world where they, get healthy at the right time and it makes them scary. But for me, what keeps them on this tier is not even the offense, it's the defense. The defense actually ranks pretty decently in a lot of categories. And the one that is the most important to me is in the run game. They stuff a lot of runs. Of course, you think about Vita Vea. For those that really know ball, Levante David, probably one of the best linebackers to ever do it. Still out there going. And so they stopped the run, and Winfield is great as well. Now, it's not a dominant defense, but, they're not bad. They're not really bottom of the league in too many categories. So it's not only what the offense can do, being explosive and scoring quick, but it's also the fact that the defense has been playing pretty well this year. And so if you get them at home, which they should win their division, so they'll at least start at home, and then what they can do on the road and everything, we'll see. But Baker's got the juice. It's not like he'll go on the road and bad weather not be able to game. He's mobile. He's got a live arm, and he's a bit of a fire plug. So I think that team definitely has a chance. If the path lines up, I think they definitely have a chance. The Colts, really, it's the run game. Like, at the end of the day, I don't have as much of an issue with Daniel Jones as a lot of people. I haven't spoke about him a lot, but those that really know, how I feel about him. But you complement that with Steichen and what they've been able to do with those pieces around them. And you complement the run game. Now, the biggest factor for me probably is that they have the best chance potentially to get the number 1 seed, number 2 seed maybe. But if they do get the number 1, then you guaranteed to be at home. You're in the dome. You neutralize the elements. It's familiar to them. And I really do think if that's the case, the defense is adequate enough to where they could stay in the game. And that offense, man, even if you scheme to take away Jonathan Taylor, the offense is built in the way that it can be balanced as long as it's ahead of schedule. And so, getting behind by a bunch of points, having to travel on the road, I don't know about that necessarily with this defense, but there's a path where, they are the number 1 seed and they can go from there. The Patriots, I think, honestly, everything is good except 2 things. It's the first year with Vrabel, so the chances are just not likely that you're going to go on a run to the Super Bowl that way. It's just that's just how it is. But then also, I don't think the offense is super talented. Not to say they're not talented, not to say they're not rolling, but to get in the playoffs, especially if you're on the road. Now, they probably might win the AFC East, so they could at least start at home, but we know New England can have some bad conditions. And so their running game is effective. It's not dominant. And so if you get in a spot where you're on the road in bad conditions, or even if you're at home in bad conditions, I don't think this – I mean, now Drake May can throw through the elements, but I don't think this offense is great enough to push through all of those issues and put up a bunch of points. Now, while the defense, I think, is more than capable, especially right now, and you know, playing good football, I just don't know, man. Like I said, when it gets to the playoff time, it gets tight. And the benefit of the doubt isn't there because this is the first year with Vrabel, even though I think Vrabel's a good coach and it's a good fit. I don't think nothing's really guaranteed, but there is a chance there. I mean, you think about teams winning in different ways. For me, the Patriots, I only see like a few ways that they really win games in the playoffs. Chargers, I mean, look, the coaching, not just the defense, which is playing adequate, good football. I think they're very well coached on that side and very well coached overall. And the run game has continued to be good. There's a world. They're planning on getting Omarion Hampton back, and that boosted even more. But the fact is, you lost your two starting tackles. That's going to be concerning. I mean, they've thrown it a lot more this year. They ran it crazy last year. They've been pretty effective at both. You got Herbert, who's a plus quarterback. And like I said, the defense playing well. There's a case for them to be scary, but they probably will be on the road. And you just got to see how they'll respond to that, especially in a playoff environment. And again, this isn't a team with a lot of playoff success or pedigree, so that works against them too in terms of not being on the next tier. Seahawks, I think, similar to what I just talked about the Chargers. Now, it's the second year with McDonald, but look, he's been coaching crazy. Like, this defense is top 3, top 5 in most categories, and that's without one of their highest draft picks in Witherspoon most of the season. Like, this team, not saying they don't have talent, they do, but they don't have like a bunch of all pros all over the place. And you think about what happened with Baltimore, where essentially it was the same thing. I mean, Kyle Hamilton got praised for a year. Roquan's been that guy, but other than that, I mean, Humphrey too has gotten praised. But other than that, it wasn't like, hey, we just got dominant talent. It was just really schemed up, and that has carried over where you have Seattle performing. Now, we'll get a great test this week against the Rams, and we'll talk about them later, especially because some people feel like maybe they haven't been tested as much. But still, you pair how, like, because everybody, when you say Seattle, they think of JSN and Darnold, they're going crazy. But I'm like, actually, the defense is kind of off the charts, and they're number 2 in the league in sacks. So when we talk about Denver getting the benefit of the doubt with their defense ability to just pressure the quarterback, well, then you got to say the same thing about Seattle. But the thing is, Seattle's offense is just as high octane as well. Now, again, they will probably win the NFC West, or they'll be battling with the Rams. We'll see. But can they go on the road? Can they do that on the road? Can they do that in the elements? That's another question, especially when you got a high-flying offense. Now, the reason, and I initially had them in the next tier up because I feel the same way about Seattle I felt about them for many years. And honestly, they have less this year. I know JSN is blossoming as the number 1 target, but they have less because you had Lockett plus him plus DK. They have less this year, and but either way, I've always kind of been a fan because they can run the ball. Now, Obviously, Pete Carroll's not there, but back in that time, not just beast mode, but the philosophy was zone run. They want to run the ball. And with Kenneth Walker, with Charbonnet, all products from the Carroll era, they have still the ability to really run the ball pretty well. And even though they might be a little more pass heavy and everything, I think Seattle's one of the few high octane offenses that if they get into a situation where they got to get in a grimy game, they could still run the ball talent wise. So I feel really strongly about them. Like I said, I initially had them in a tier higher, but just not a battle tested team. That's why I had to kind of drop that. All right, the Lions, everything is a thumbs up except, just really the new coordinators. This is a new year with new coordinators. Now, Philly did it, so we'll see about that. There's a lot of talk about the play call duties going to Campbell. I think people aren't really realizing exactly what that is. I don't think it's the red flag that some people think it is. But either way, still, that's new. The Lions have been knocking on the door. I mean, nobody really wants to play the Lions, like, at the end of the day. And more than likely, they'll get the division. But even if they don't, they probably, I don't know. Actually, who is I don't know if they'll get the number 1 seed. But either way, you don't want to see the Lions on the road or at home because they can run the ball, much like I was talking about with Seattle. A very potent play action and drop back passing team, but their first philosophy is the running game. And so that's a scary team you don't want to see. And I do think they've been battle tested, especially the quarterback. They've been knocking on the door, man. The only thing that stops me from saying they are champion material is, again, they're just going into this year with pretty much a whole new staff, coaching wise, and that just kind of worries me. So we'll see what they can do. But on the strength of Dan Campbell, on the strength of the talent on offense, defense, you would like to see a little more talent, but it's good enough. No super significant injuries that I know of. So they're scary. There's a case to be made to put on champion material. So there's that. All right, next group. Eagles, reigning champs. I'm sorry. Hold on. I skipped the Packers. Packers, I originally had them on the tier lower, but look, the talent is overwhelming. This is the same conversation I had about the Eagles last year before they started going on the roll. The talent is just too overwhelming. Number one, you have a game record with Micah Parsons on defense alone, but then top that with the fact that you got a bunch of talent on that defense, and the defense, for the most part, has been showing up. And so when you get into the playoffs, again, there's a lot of factors that I consider, but I would tell you what's up there is a dominant defense, especially a dominant game record. So not only do you have Parsons, but then you couple that with Gary. Van Ness hasn't been playing recently, but if he can be back, and then you all, who am I forgetting? Well, those three guys. Plus you got Wyatt, those guys in the middle. And then you got an all-pro in McKinney. Secondary's been playing pretty good for some younger guys. And so that defense is really, coalescing together. And although you got the issues with Jordan Love and everything, to me, because what holds it back, especially why I put them on a lower tier before, is because Jordan Love is not battle testing. With the results haven't been that great in the playoffs, and I won't even say Matt LaFleur because I trust him a little bit, but Jordan Love is just a question mark right now. And the receivers have not played altogether healthy, and the questions have not been answered. Adding Matt Golden and everything it just made more questions. We have yet to really define the roles of these receivers. On top of that, they're not healthy right now. On top of that, Elton Jenkins, who is part of one of your strengths in the offensive line, is now gone for the season. So all that coupled with the fact Jordan Love has been a question mark, we're not really sure if he has what it takes to, to carry the offense. That worries me, but I balance that with the extreme amount of talent that they have on defense. Matt LaFleur, who I trust to an extent, but the biggest thing that nobody talks about is Josh Jacobs in that run game. Now, again, Elton Jenkins hurts that you lose him, but Josh Jacobs led the league in rushing before. He had a great year last year, and, he's still effective and potent this year, even though it might not be mind-blowing numbers. So I think, and again, Green Bay, they know the weather, they know the issues. So if they're on the road, probably not going to be nothing as worse as Green Bay. And when you get into the playoffs, not only because of the weather, but because of crunch time, teams that can lean on the run get a big boost for me. All right, Eagles, reigning champs, battle-tested. We know that. Talent crazy. There's not much to say there. It's not just because they're the reigning champs. Even how we're seeing them play this year. But that's the thing. People forget. They act like the offense was just dominating from day one last year, or defense. The defense definitely wasn't. And the offense kept asking questions about the pass game. And then we got later into the season, things kind of connected. And so that's just been the Eagles story. But also so much talent, and I trust them all. So they have to be at the top tier, especially they're leading the NFC East. I think and Jaden Daniels is out. Cowboys are a mess, and the Giants are a mess. So they'll be in with their division. I think they're fine. Chiefs. Honestly, the only knock I would have against them is that they are outside of the playoffs as it stands today. But I do believe in turn between the Jags and whatnot, I think they're going to get in. So, and if the Chiefs are in, they have to be championship. Well, I mean, they are. They won multiple championships. We know what that is. I can go down that long list, but I think the biggest thing that people have to remember, much like I talked about with Green Bay, even though the Chiefs do not get big rushing numbers, they're always efficient in the run game. I said this so many times about last year, and I looked at it this year, and guess what? And success rate in the run game, Chiefs are top 10. And success rate, or in stuff percentage, meaning the number of runs that are stuffed for no gain or loss, Chiefs are number 1. They are stuffed the least amount of time in the run game. So that keeps you on schedule. That keeps you in shorter distances on third down. Chiefs have always been strong at converting thirds down. Pat Mahomes has been strong in that. And at the end of the day, whether it's last year where the games were close or it was the playoffs, the Chiefs know how to control the clock. And as I said, that is one of the biggest factors, because they're not going to make the mistakes. They're going to execute so strongly that they're going to force you to execute almost perfect. Otherwise, you're going to make the mistake. So I'm not betting against Mahomes or any of them. Rams, also another team that won a championship. Offense is potent as can be. NFC West, I believe that, well, Seahawks probably might win it, but they'll be in contention, so they might have to go on the road. And I do think, I mean, not really Stafford's arm, but I do wonder about the elements in that pass game. But the thing is, with Puka, they spend so much of his early years and even now using him as an extension of the run with the screen game and all that. And then the run game, Kyron Williams is hella effective. So I remember a few years ago, people was talking about how tragic the O-line is. And people aren't really praising what they've been able to do with this offensive line, or praise this offensive line for their contributions to what they've been able to do. So, my mind always goes to worst case scenario. So I'm thinking about a snow game in, Philly or something like that. Yeah, you don't really love the Rams game or the Rams offense in that, but I think in most cases, the Rams are going to be able to operate at a high level on offense. And then on the other side of the ball, the defense is above average, and they're doing what they have to do. So, I don't really see any reason. And then you got the added benefit of McVay. I just don't see any reason they're not champion material. The Ravens, the only thing, because, look, being able to dominate the run game, dominate the clock, Lamar being a dual threat, defense starting to surge again like they did last year at the right time. The only knock against them, why they wouldn't be here, is because they are outside of the playoffs right now as well. Now, in this projection, they will leapfrog the Steelers and win the division. They're not that far back. If they had lost this past week against the Vikings, it would have been tough for me, but I'm operating on the thought of, if they get in the playoffs, nobody wants to see Baltimore. That run game and defense travel. Now, their defense isn't a bully, though, but they're pretty good. Lately, they got things more together. But that run game is a bully, and Lamar and his ability is a bully, so nobody really wants to see them at home or on the road. Buffalo. I know what everybody wants to talk about, the defense. They want us to talk about how the offense isn't as good. The thing people got to remember, early in this season, when they decided to go extra linemen or even multiple tight ends and just really lean into a run heavy offensive philosophy, letting James Cook being, great season so far, or even some of their other backs, and then working the play action and the Josh Allen run game off of that, that's still in their bag. And especially now, I don't think we'll get to Buffalo, but especially if we get to Buffalo and it's super bad out there, like, they're one of the few teams that can just line up and get in that bag. And then if things get a little hairy, things get a little out of touch, you do have a superstar or a quarterback that is a superstar and can go nuclear. And that's the same thing with Baltimore. So the defense, look, well coached enough to keep you in the game. Definitely not potent or scary by any means. But with Josh Allen in the run game, it's too hard to say that you wouldn't, because it'd be different if it was more like the Bengals, no shot at them, but Joe Burrow, excellent, and those receivers, all of them, excellent. If they got into a situation where it was, rough playoff time, you don't believe in that run game. You don't believe in them to sit back and just run the ball. That's the difference with Buffalo. If Buffalo was built on just slinging it across, up and down the field, I would feel different. But because I know, even the numbers show they have, top 5, top 10 running metrics, that they can get into a ball control game and be able to play. And if the defense was to give up something, that you got a guy in Josh Allen that could get you back there. So again, typically I'm only talking about a handful of teams, and even 5 in the champion at the top tier, that's a lot. But I do think, honestly, all the top 3 tiers, I see it. I truly see it. I'm not even just doing it to make content. Like, I truly see it. Bears and Broncos, unfortunately, I don't really see it for them. But everybody else, I can see it. I can see it happening. So go down in the comment section. Let me know what you think. Share it around. Get the convo started. Thumbs up, subscribe, and thank you for listening.